Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Careers Get Into IT Live, where we do just that, get into all things IT. Really excited about today's episode. We are joined by Lucas Mearian, Senior Reporter at Computerworld. And I'm going to dive into Lucas's impressive background here in just a second. But before I do that, Lucas, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Lucas put together an article and has kind of a refresher article. And one of the reasons I asked him to join us today is he has a column that refreshes every month around Euro labor statistics data, and CompTIA kind of grabs that and does their own research as well, outlining technology industry job performance. So, since the IT job outlook is so near and dear to so many people's hearts in our audience, I just felt like this was the perfect marriage. Nobody better to talk to. Why don't let's go through quickly your background. I think I have enough time to get through it. Here we go. Lucas, award-winning journalist and editor in the daily newspaper and business-to-business magazine publishing industry for more than 20 years. He has covered a wide variety of information technology topics, from data storage systems, blockchain, and enterprise mobility to vertical markets such as healthcare and financial services. Currently, he is a senior reporter at Computerworld magazine, covering AI in the enterprise, future of work issues, healthcare IT, and fintech. Impressive. It's a long career.
Makes it fun.
Sure, certainly. And just so everyone knows, Lucas is joining us on the cusp of a vacation and an incredibly busy schedule. So we need to get him out of here soon. He's got a lot going on. So we will do that, I promise. All right. How about we jump right in?
Absolutely.
Okay, so everybody in the audience, just so you know, as always, Patricia's on hand, our team's on hand. So if you have questions for Lucas at any point, we will certainly do our best to get those answered now or at some point afterwards. So have fun, interact with us a little bit here, and let's have a great show. All right. So Lucas, when I read your article, the recurring theme that kept coming back to me, and it happens a lot, June's tech industry performance was a bit schizophrenic. So let's start with the up. Let's start with the good mood. Mm-hmm. How many new workers were added in tech in June, and how does that compare to the previous month?
So new job postings for tech positions reached 200,000 in June. It was down about 8,600 month over month, but in total, we still have 444,000 active job postings for the month and 2.5 million for the year. So it's doing well. And unemployment in tech industry is still below the national unemployment rate. I think national is 4.1. In tech, it's 3.7. It's remained below it. At the same time, like I said, the number of IT occupations throughout the economy kind of declined a little, about 22,000 positions, which isn't a lot. I know it sounds like a lot, but we're talking millions of jobs here. And despite, pockets of job growth in the IT industry, the recent data kind of indicates a degree of downward pressure on tech employment, according to CompTIA, which is a really great nonprofit trade group that advocates for the industry. So there's a combination of factors there. If you want to get into them, we can talk about that.
I do have a few questions specifically around a lot of the points that you just mentioned, actually. So I'm glad you led into that. And just so everyone knows, we do have Lucas's article up, and we're going to share the link. We're sharing it right here as well if you want to go check it out. He obviously cites the BLS data and cites CompTIA as well, so you can even jump in and do your own deep dive into some of this, which sometimes is really fun if you're a tech nerd like I am, and I assume that Lucas is.
Yes.
So continuing the positive, and you touched on this a little bit. The other good news from that worker increase we saw in tech, was there other good news that we saw regarding the worker increase in tech?
Yeah. So what has happened is employers have been filling a lot of the existing jobs. It's not so much that the jobs have gone away as they've been filling the jobs that were being posted. Overall job postings, like I said, were down, but that's also because they've been filling it. So while new job positions slowed somewhat, it's basically a leveling off. I mean, we understand that during the pandemic, a lot of jobs moved to hybrid and remote, but that also meant that there's going to be an increase in cloud linked positions, in remote positions, in digitization of various jobs. And that's what's happening now is the types of jobs are shifting. So there's still positive increase year over year, even if there's a leveling off right now. We're not where we were a year ago. We're a little higher, actually about 1.5% higher in unemployment, but still below the national average and still near historic lows.
So
yeah,
this is a bit off the script from what I sent over, what you and I have talked about, but just what you just said, that comment got me thinking. One of the issues that we tackle, and one of the thoughts that we have occasionally and hear from folks that join us, you hear about all these layoffs in big tech.
Yeah.
And those are accurate, obviously. Folks are laying people off, and sometimes in double-digit fashion.
Yeah.
Is the IT industry changing to the point where IT is so important that every mom and pop store, every organization has an IT department, has a focus on IT, and are some of those jobs naturally being absorbed by other industries?
Yes, and yes. So what happened was the large firms who had the huge IT shops overhired throughout their digitization programs, and throughout the pandemic, they panicked and they overhired. And once the pandemic was over and once they started readjusting, they realized that they just had too many workers, and that's where you saw the large layoffs happening. What we're seeing as a result of that is there was a dearth of IT talent for a lot of these small to medium-sized businesses. And so the small to medium-sized businesses all of a sudden got this wonderful wealth of IT talent that they could finally hire after starving for years. And so they started hiring them out. So it kept the unemployment rate relatively low. But yeah, you're seeing a shift where the large employers let go of a lot of people only because they overhired. It wasn't because necessarily that the projects have gone away. The projects are still there, and we could talk about artificial intelligence too, because that's going to be a big impact on the job market.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a world that you live in, something you cover. AI isn't just a trend.
No,
just reality, not
it's
a trend.
The future. It's not blockchain.
Right. Yes, people understand this for sure, and it's evolving so much. But all right. So I guess focusing a little bit more. So you talked about the down a little bit, obviously. I don't know if there are any other down markers that you want to cover, because I think you kind of hit some of that. But if there are, were there any other down markers in June that you want to talk about?
Honestly, no. I mean, look, the median salary for an IT worker is $104,000. And you compare that to the average salary for all workers in the U.S., that's $48,000.
Wow.
They're making good money in this business. And let's remember that nearly 10 million people are employed in the tech industry in the U.S. today. And it's increasing, according to CompTIA, by about 300,000 jobs a year. So, there are more jobs being created than jobs being eliminated by things like AI and downsizing. And in fact, AI is expected to create more jobs than it eliminates. It will eliminate some jobs, though.
Okay. And just so you know, Lucas is fair on both sides. When things are very much down, he talks about it. When things are up, he talks about it. So it is a real perspective of the industry and what's happening right now. And I think that's important to mention. As a reporter, he has to be.
I am beholden to no one.
That's exactly right.
I wouldn't be in this business. I'll tell you right now, I'd be working for a public relations agency somewhere, a marketing firm.
Talking to a PR guy.
I'll be making twice as much.
I don't think so. I hear you. Understood completely. All right. So you talked about occupations, Lucas. So which jobs within the tech industry led the way? And the reason I ask that is because we have so many aspiring folks and maybe people in our audience that are saying, okay, where do I want to go? What route do I want to take? So which jobs kind of stood out, I guess?
I mean, it doesn't change a lot over time. These are some of the leading IT positions out there. Software developers, always in hot demand, about 51,000 of them. IT project managers, 40,000. Data scientists, 22. IT support specialists, 17,000. Network architects, 9,000. Security analysts, 16,000. Especially with the rise of AI, and security analysts are needed to guard against the unintentional release of private or proprietary data. So they're on the uptick. Those are kind of the usual suspects. And then you have the AI jobs like prompt engineers and, well, data scientists are a part of that as well, because they've got to make sure the data that gets ingested is clean, accurate,
Sure.
unbiased.
Sure.
Red hot. Yeah, the AI marketplace expected to grow like 120% year over year for some time to come. And 97 million jobs are expected to be created by it. Worldwide. I think right now it's expected to reach like $407 billion in revenue by 2027. That's according to the World Economic Forum. And so today it's about half that, about 196 billion. So it's going to double in a matter of less than 3 years. And 2 years ago, it was 86. So it's
so hard to even for me to get my head around.
Sure.
I mean, does that compare to any other trend that you've seen in tech? No. In the last 20 years, 10 years, 15 years?
Well, cloud. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it compares to cloud, but I think this is the difference with cloud is that's more of a service opportunity. So consolidating data centers into a service opportunity versus AI, which is going to impact virtually everyone, every job, regardless. And that's a warning.
Yeah.
I tell this to people all the time. My son-in-law is in IT, and I warn him. I said, you need to learn about AI. He's like, I don't want to learn about AI. You need to learn about AI. I don't care what you do. Just take a general course in AI just to understand it. If you can put at the top or near the top of your resume, you took a course in AI, you're going to be that more attractive to a company that doesn't have to train you when you come in. But that's the advice I give people. Virtually every job in some way is going to be touched by AI, whether you're using it or whether it's being used in the job you perform.
And Lucas, that's so smart. That's such good insight. And it's not only uber important in the IT industry. I mean, you have to keep learning, and AI is something you have to reskill. Just a fact. You have to upskill or reskill. But that applies to, at this point, just about every industry. I mean, here I am, a 25-year PR guy, and I know for a fact that I have to understand AI a lot better.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be left behind.
And it's funny. I've talked to a lot of CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, and the question that comes up over and over again, and the fear people have is AI is going to replace me. Yeah, there are going to be some jobs that are going to be replaced by AI. Not as many as you think. More jobs are going to be impacted by AI, and what that means is that if you're a software engineer, you're going to start to use AI to produce the code. In fact, most organizations use it now to do that, but you still need a human being touching that. You still need the human being to polish it, to send it, to show the AI the direction you want to go in for that code. Proprietary data, is that what you're using, or are you using data off the internet? You still need the human touch for that. So what it's really going to do is going to help people be more creative, waste less time on the mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks. There's a lot of upside to AI. But one of the things that the executives have all said to me to a person is AI is not going to replace people in my company. People who understand and know how to use AI are going to replace people who don't.
So incredibly well said. And it's so positive to hear. Yeah. You're not going to lose your job if you keep learning. Yeah. And that's kind of the reality anywhere. Yeah. We have a question, Lucas. Why don't we tackle? We have Chris over on YouTube. I graduate in 3 weeks. What kind of jobs can I expect to be able to get straight out of school? And just so you know, Lucas, our program that he's most likely in is a foundational program. It's designed to get folks in the door in IT and then advance their careers.
Right.
So that's the level where most likely Chris is right now.
I don't. Is he a computer science graduate? I don't know what he graduated in. So
certification training.
Oh, certification training.
Yes.
Do we know what he's certified in?
Information technology and security administration is the program, and it's fundamental. So it's the CompTIA courses. It's ethical hacking. It's a fundamental AI course. It's Microsoft. Doesn't include cloud, but includes all of the fundamental knowledge you need to break in.
Yeah, And honestly, I'm not going to act like I know what kind of job he can get right off. But what I can say is, from what you're telling me, he sounds very well positioned to get a job straight out of school. This is the advice that I have for him. List your soft skills up high in your resume.
Amen.
Right now, organizations are looking for people who can continue learning, who have critical thinking skills, who get along with other people, who are empathetic. I know this all sounds like a bunch of guru stuff. It's absolutely true. To a person, when I talk to IT managers, they're looking for people who can advance in their corporation, in their company, and who are open to continue learning and work well with others and are creative. And that is more valuable than even a college degree now. And we can talk about it. I think that was one of your questions for later. But college degrees don't count as much as they used to. Getting a computer science degree does not count as much as getting hard and soft skills under your belt. So the certification programs are outstanding. You probably will get, probably the most likely job you'll get in security is networking security. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but
Sure.
that is a good place. That's a very robust area of growth right now, network security. So that's what I would hunt for if that's what you're into.
And Chris, take all that to heart, especially the soft skills.
Yeah.
So important to pay attention to. You need to be able to communicate, but also something we stress fairly often in this program is don't be afraid to take that entry-level job. Don't be afraid to take that help desk position.
Yeah.
Because if you show that you can do the job, and if you agree that you're going to advance in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And help desk is growing. There are the number of jobs in help desk are actually growing in the industry. So that, yeah, don't ever put your nose up at an entry-level position. I would be more concerned with getting a job at a good company. So research the company than just getting a big job in a small company.
So Chris, hope that answers your question. Really appreciate it. So let's jump back in very quickly. Thunder's banging the house around here. So we have an extra audience.
Is this from Burl?
What's that?
Is this from the Hurricane Burl that came up?
I don't think it's across here yet. I guess it could be.
Oh, okay.
But it has been raining for the last couple of days, so we might be getting some of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
mind giving folks an idea of how many. So, Patricia, you were just showing that graph. Yeah. What are we looking at? Is there one previous to this, or was this the one that we were looking at? What are we looking at here? This is kind of the industry. So we're looking at the tech industry and how it's ebbed and flowed, or its pattern in the last year in the top left-hand corner. In the top right-hand corner, I believe it's the last number of years. So I guess the question is, how many folks are working in tech? What's the big picture that we're looking at?
And I apologize. I'm bringing up my own copy of that so I can actually see it. Because
I know it's tough to see. It is. Well, let's focus it a little bit. If we can just get to question 6. How many people are working in tech? I think you mentioned that as of last month, and has that number varied much this year?
It has not varied a great deal. I'm sorry, I was just pulling up my own graphic here.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see, I've got that here somewhere. I apologize. I'm just getting the
Don't
number.
worry about it at all. Yeah.
So there were 9.6. I think I mentioned this earlier. There were 9.6 million people working in tech occupations in the U.S. last year. This year, there were about 9.9 million people working in tech, according to CompTIA. Yeah. So that goes along the same lines as it's increasing about 300,000 positions every year. Does that help?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to paint the picture of, whether or not there's growth, whether or not even in this economy and even in all of the kind of the Eeyore news around tech, whether or not we're seeing a bump.
If you look at the CompTIA graph, and I think it's the same one I have up, the unemployment rate trending, I think that's one you have up.
Yep.
The tech industry employment and tech job positions, you'll see that most of those positions are in the positive range. So you're looking at things like in industries like telecommunications, cloud infrastructure, information sources, search platforms, IT and custom software services. All those are up.
Yeah.
Specific jobs may be down, but again, I think by just a tiny bit. We're talking hundreds. In one case, you have a few thousand, but for the vast majority, we're just talking a few hundred jobs here. Not even a blip on the radar. It's kind of a leveling off is what we're seeing.
Got it.
Readjusting. And there's some FOMO out there, fear of missing out for the AI. So a lot of people are deploying AI right now, not really knowing how to use it. So a lot of companies are deploying a boatload of models for their different businesses.
Yeah.
But eventually what you're going to have are more consolidated models that are run in their own data centers, or if it's in the cloud, it's going to be their own proprietary data being used. Right now, they're using, Microsoft 365 for their AI and a lot of other of the larger platforms. So they're trying it out. It's still early days, but I think I got off track here.
No, not at all. Look,
Yeah.
So you mentioned, Lucas, you mentioned earlier, we were talking remote jobs.
Right.
And, something that's obviously, this as well as anybody,
Yeah.
even though there's some talk about going back to work and some people are, and there's hybrid, a lot of folks are still very interested in remote work. So which areas in remote job posting saw an uptick for our audience? And was there a downside here as well?
Let's see. I've got this here somewhere. I apologize again. I need to find it.
No, not at all.
Okay. I've got it. Software developers saw the highest growth in numbers for remote. Obviously it's fairly easy to do remotely. Postings increased more by 1,100 job postings for software developers in June. And it reached 11,487. Posting for other IT positions like project managers, data scientists, support specialists. They were down slightly, but not significantly. And those are all remote jobs that can be had.
So, folks, if you're strictly looking for remote, which, some people are, I get it. If you're starting your career, you may want to be a little more open to other positions. But if you're starting your career and want remote, certainly look into those things. Or if you're mid-career, those are options that are certainly growing. All right.
One thing let me just camp on that for a minute.
Please.
One thing I would look for if I'm looking for a job that offers, let's say I'm willing to do hybrid, look for a workplace that's flexible. So they don't say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You have to be in here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Look for something that says, okay, so they say 2 days a week, 3 days a week, but you get to choose the days. Something flexible with your schedule.
Yeah, that's great advice. And what are you seeing in terms of organizations saying you have to come back to work? Are you seeing that, more of that?
It's about the same number as organizations that allow fully remote. So
okay.
I'm going on a limb here saying this. I think about 20% to 25% for both.
Got it.
And then the vast majority, about 48%, I think, is hybrid.
Okay, that makes a lot of good sense.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you mentioned this point earlier as well, but I certainly want to dig into it. You highlighted this from CompTIA's research regarding organizations working to remove the 4-year college degree requirement for employment, which hits home for a lot of our skills warriors that are out there, and potentially up to 70 million people that don't have college degrees. So we had James Stanger from CompTIA on the broadcast a few weeks ago to discuss the federal government's skills-based hiring initiative in cybersecurity as well. So this is something we've dug into a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What were the findings around this effort in June's report? What did you see? What did you uncover?
So I've written a lot about this. CompTIA's report showed 46% of all active job postings in June did not specify the candidates needed a 4-year degree. The government's about that high too, almost 50%. The percentage was higher for some of the key technical positions, such as network support specialists, IT support specialists, network and system administrators, network architects and database administrators. For things like network support specialists, as high as 90%, you're not required to have a college degree. And IT support specialists, they were as high as 73%. The others were around 50%. requiring a degree or not requiring a degree. And again, that speaks to the fact that they're looking for specific skills, but more importantly, and we were talking about this earlier with your friend online, that they're looking for soft skills. They're looking for people who can continue to learn, who don't get, I'm going to give you an example. I knew a guy, Linux, would not move from Linux. He loved Linux, and he eventually lost his job because he was not willing to do anything but Linux. I love Linux. Well, you know what? The company didn't. And so you lost your job because of it, because you weren't willing to be flexible. It's technology, folks. Enjoy it. It's all fun in the end because it's always changing. It's always growing. You have a job that has a future without any end. There's no end in sight for technology. These aren't some of the more mundane jobs out there. So enjoy it and be willing to always learn, critically think. So when you see AI, how can I use that to make my job easier? And how can I be more productive? So instead of sitting there crunching numbers all day long, I'll let the algorithm do that. And I'll go be creative and create something new, some new piece of software. Or I'll help them figure out this problem as far as, trucking, for example. I'm a data scientist. I'm going to figure out how to make the trucking more efficiency, or find out which trucks aren't actually doing their job. They're sitting in some rest stop somewhere having a sandwich when they should be out driving. I'm sorry, that's very specific.
Not at all. No, I got to tell you, I'm old enough to remember the Saturday Night Live skit with the IT guys when you call and they just say move. And it was that stereotype, that surly IT guy that just doesn't move, or gal. That isn't communicative, that's just, upset about everything. That doesn't exist. I love hearing your perspective on enjoying what you're doing.
Absolutely. My son-in-law is in IT, and he loves what he does. It keeps him hopping busy because he's a data scientist, business data scientist. And he has helped that company save millions of dollars. And that's what's so rewarding about the jobs that you do. You make everyone's life a lot easier because you automate a lot of what they can do. Right. And people always moan and groan about technology, but it's really, these are small complaints. These are little complaints compared to the gains that we've had over the years.
I really love the discussion. Yeah. I mean, and just to get back to skills warriors, I think I just read an article recently, I think it was this week, maybe yesterday, that said 65% of the workforce does not have a bachelor's degree of the workforce. It's not just IT. So, I mean, there's still tremendous value in higher education, folks, traditional higher education. Let's not kid ourselves. But having specific skills, especially in IT, mean a lot. And they mean more and more, I think, every year as we continue to advance.
Absolutely.
So consider that path for sure. Okay. We do have a question from Adam over on Facebook. Wants to know, what are the soft skills that you're talking about, Lucas?
Oh, okay. Hold on.
He's putting you on the spot.
We had a video glitch. Can you pardon me for 1 second so I can pull this up?
Sure.
I apologize.
No, sure. Of course.
Okay. This is going to be weird because I'm going off screen for a second.
Okay. Not a problem at all. Hey, this is the internet. That's just fine.
Boom.
I can see you. We can see you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Patricia, you can see him as well, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Soft skills: time management, customer service, critical thinking, active listening, attention to detail, project management. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting into hard skills now. So there's 5 right there: time management, customer service, critical thinking, active listening, attention to detail, strong work ethic, problem solving, detail oriented, considers strategic vision, thinks broadly, motivates and empowers others. You get other people to do their job well because you do too, and you motivate them to do that. Monitors markets and competitors so you know what's going on around you. Considers the financial impact of what you're doing. Drives improvement, demonstrates empathy. That's huge.
Yes.
Who wants to work with somebody who doesn't like you or doesn't like people? I mean, I know a lot of technologists are introverts, but still, you need to get along with other people. That's a big one. And learns quickly. That's a huge one. Being able to learn and adapt as your company changes over time or as new technologies come out.
And if I had to, that's a great list, Adam. That's just about everything that you need to consider. And if I had to pull one from that list, I'm very partial to customer service or communication skills. If you want to focus on one thing, if you need to focus on one thing, just make sure that you're communicating, properly, in the right tone, in the right way. Because if you are that person, you will stand out, especially if you're early in your career. And I hope I'm not to put words in your mouth, Lucas. That's just from my personal perspective.
No, it's shocking. Honestly, I thought all people were decent communicators. And then I see some reports that people have written, or I hear them in conference calls. And it's kind of shocking that some people have a very hard time communicating ideas, or they communicate them in ways that are misunderstood. So work on your communication skills. It can't hurt you. It can only help.
Got it. All right. So why don't we put a bow on this thing? One last question, and I promise you're out of here. I promise. You've been in the game for a long time. You certainly understand this industry. What is your take on the state of IT right now? I know it's a big question. Do you see optimism around hiring in the industry now and into the future?
Absolutely. I think I hate to keep harping on AI, but I've got to. It's like cloud. It's like networking. It's like consumer electronics in the early 2000s. This industry is wonderful because it keeps changing, and AI is going to probably have the largest impact of any technology in the last last 2 decades. Let's say maybe few decades, even above cloud. Not the internet, but it's going to have a tremendous impact, and it's going to create massive numbers of jobs, and it's going to impact probably at least 1 out of 3 jobs that exist today. So I have great enthusiasm for the future of the IT industry, the tech industry in general. You're just going to continue to see job growth, but you have to be willing to change with the times.
Lucas, I can't tell you how appreciative I am, and I'm sure that the audience is, for the 30 minutes that you just went through with us, and really just outlining kind of what you've seen and what you're seeing in your perspectives. They're invaluable. And if you didn't take a nugget out of this, folks, then work on those communication skills, work on, paying attention, work on taking value out of something. So that was incredibly impressive. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So let's do some plugs. Where can folks find you, and where can folks find Computerworld?
Oh, www.computerworld.com.
There you go.
We have a number of sister publications too. So if you need something specific to CIOs or networking or security, CSO.com, networkworld.com, CIO.com. We've been out for, Computerworld's been around since 1967. So we've been monitoring these industries for a very long time. And we've got some excellent journalists and IT professionals that write for these publications.
So folks, go follow Lucas, go follow his work, and go follow Computerworld and jump into their publications. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Obviously, we'll be back here next week. Lucas, we'd love for you to join us again. I'll just say, you have an open invitation. If there's something you want to talk about, please feel free anytime. But most importantly, enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your time away, whatever it is, time away from work, whatever you may be doing. All right, folks, we will see you here next week. Thank you for spending 30 minutes with us, especially on your Friday and especially on your Friday lunch hours. And we will talk to you next week. Lucas, if you don't mind hanging for just a second.
Not at all.
All right. Talk to you later.